Hi, friend. Welcome back to Like Us Pod, the bonus episodes with your host, me, Erin Jones-Wesley. We are getting into the Real Housewives of Rhode Island, episode 6, and the Real Housewives of Atlanta, episode 5. And I have to say, between last week with Joellen saying, "Does Brian look like he works out to you?" and this week to Angela calling Pinky's teeth incestuous. She said, they're incestuous teeth. I do feel like these ladies in Atlanta and in Rhode Island are delivering. I'm having fun watching them. I know Atlanta can be hit or miss for some people, but I actually am enjoying Atlanta again, even though I hadn't for years. In Rhode Island, we all know they struck gold in Rhode Island. Now, also, before we get into the episode, let's get into this week's Hot Mic Confessional, which, let's keep it short, it was the Met Gala this week, and everyone looked fantastic. And more importantly, Blue Ivy, the real manager of Beyonce and Jay-Z, she made her first Met Gala appearance with her parents. And the thing that's so hilarious about this is you can see in so much of the footage, they wanted Blue Ivy to take her sunglasses off. It's like all of the stylist, Jay-Z, Beyonce, at some point on those steps, everyone asked Blue Ivy to take her sunglasses off, and she never did, not one time. Not one time did she take the sunglasses off. She said, "I will at the top of the stairs." And she did it on her own time. And that's why we all say that Blue is in charge, because she is in charge. And we love to see it. Okay, now let's get into Real Housewives of Rhode Island first, episode 6. We start the episode off, and Liz and Kelsey are on a FaceTime. And we're learning that Kelsey, who was only rich for 5 episodes, is now broke because her and her sugar daddy broke up. She said that they were lying in bed, and she said, "I think that this is the end of the road for us." And he basically said, "Yeah, me too, toots, see you later." And then their relationship is over. I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, "See you later, toots." We don't know her sugar daddy, so in my head, he just calls her toots. He's like, toots. So they broke up. We then see that Rosie is with her husband and she's packing. And Rich says that he thinks that Kelsey and Rosie should just make up. But I think this is where Rich is wrong. And I just learned this man's name and I might forget it next episode. But Rich, you're wrong. And the reason why Rich is wrong is because Kelsey and Rosie should actually never make up. It is my firm belief that this is a rivalry that should exist every season of this show until I get bored of it. But for right now, I love the dramatic tension between Kelsey and Rosie because they are so similar, but also like a clear distinction of different choices being made. And I love it. And we get some of that this episode. I love these two beefing. We then get to Joellen, and she is having a shopping date with her sister. And we also get the first like us point of the episode because Joellen and her sister Jen, they call each other Sissy. And me and my sister, we also call each other Sissy. I just think it's cute. Joellen says she wishes that she was closer to her mother, that they never really had a close relationship, and that the loss of her grandfather is hard because it was a father figure and she doesn't feel close to her mom. And, you know, I think that there's also something relatable in that for people who have lost a parent and, you know, when you lose kind of that parental source and then maybe you don't have a great relationship, that can be hard. So my heart goes out to Josie. Then we cut to Liz and Kelsey one more time, and it's cute, this little friendship that they have. You know, I have a couple of friends who are like 20, 30 years older than me, and there is something really fun about having friendships with women who are a little bit older than you because usually they have a very youthful energy, and it's in a way where they're just supportive and happy and know how to be kind friends. I love my older women friends. I find them to just be such a delight and light in my life, and I feel like I see this with Liz and Kelsey, and it's really cute. Kelsey's moving out. Liz is there to help her. And they're like kind of talking about that the house looks great and that it's so sad that Kelsey has to move out of this fantastic house. And it's like, Liz, don't bring this up right now, which is going through the drama. But what I love is that Liz ends up gifting Kelsey a very sweet gift as she supports her on this new mission. And I don't know if you guys saw, but I took like a little screen grab of it because I thought it was so sweet. It seemed like it was a form of like a compact mirror. And it says, "No path is final. No light is lost. You were born to begin again and blaze your own way home." So sweet. I love that. Like, what a quote. Everyone's going on a trip to the Newport mansions. We learn that Newport, Rhode Island has these fantastic sprawling estates, and we're going to check one out. This particular Newport mansion that they're in is 100 years old. And Liz and Alicia are in the car on the way to the mansion. They arrive first. And in the car, they talk about Kelsey's breakup and that Rula is going through a lot in her family. And they say, let's call Rula and make sure that she shows up. And Rula doesn't answer the phone, you guys. Rula's like, I'm not dealing with those bitches. The last time I saw them, I didn't have any answers, and I still don't have answers. Rula doesn't have any answers. Everyone else arrives to the mansion. And, you know, I gotta say, Rosie's top, what? That's all I have to say. Rosie's top. That butterfly top. I don't know about that. I don't know about that shirt, Rosie. Let's talk, girl. They all have to get ready for a lunch. They're going to do a lunch, and the lunch is based off of Alicia's dolls. And so they're all getting ready, and Kelsey is doing Joellen's hair and makeup. And the thing is that I think is important is, you know, as much as everyone's like, oh, it's so refreshing to see Real Housewives of Rhode Island do their own glam. Kelsey has a cheat code to doing glam. The reason why Kelsey knows how to do hair and makeup is because she was in the Miss USA system. And in the Miss USA, you know, there's Miss USA pageants, there's Miss America pageants, and then there's a lot of other ones that I don't even know what they're all called. But if you're in the Miss USA system, they do make you do your own hair and makeup. You're not allowed to hire someone to do that for you. And so Kelsey did learn that skill there, and it's a hard skill. You know, I think that people think about pageants as a lot of soft skills. But learning how to do your hair and makeup and putting stuff together, that is a hard skill that you can monetize. And it looks like that's what Kelsey's trying to do. She's the glam squad right now. God bless her. Alicia shows off all of her dolls. And it is a little insane that she's having this doll brunch. I think it's a little nuts. I think that Alicia is really cementing herself as like, I'm quirky. And it shows. Ashley I says that she also has collected dolls, not to the point that Alicia has collected dolls, but she says that she has a Jonas Brothers Camp Rock doll and NSYNC dolls, and she still has them. And although I don't have dolls, well, actually, that's not true. I do. I have one doll. I have a Madam C.J. Walker Barbie that my husband got me. But I do relate to Ashley in the way that she's the type of millennial that's like right on the cusp, you know? Like, I feel like so much online in these generation wars, people love to be like, Gen Z had Camp Rock and millennials had That's a Raven. But there's certain people in the millennial cohort that were very baby millennials, but also liked pop culture. And so some of us were watching TRL and then also watching Hannah Montana. Some people were listening to Kesha and then also watching Sunny with a Chance. And that's all I'm saying is like, you have to hold space for the multitude of a millennial that is born in the 90s before 95, you know? And I feel like Ashley was giving me a shout out in that. And so I am going to give her a like us point. They all arrive to the doll lunch and Joellen throws some serious shade. She walks up and she says, goodness, you guys look so cute. Rosie, you look like a stripper. But the thing is like Joellen's not that well dressed. Like her dress is fine, you know, whatever, it's fine. And Rosie also didn't look that bad. Like to me, strippers, sex workers, they're dressed cool. They have fashion. They know what's going on. Or they're like being sex pots. And Rosie was neither of those things. I'm like, she looks like a stripper. I don't know what stripper Rosie looks like. Maybe it was her heels. I don't know. Rosie didn't look like a stripper. She was wearing like a fastener on her head, for God's sakes. They all talk about Rula not showing up to the trip because by the time they get to lunch, they realize that Rula's not showing up. And Joellen says that she feels bad for Rula. She's lying. She doesn't feel bad. Joellen is mad that her husband, Rula's husband, Brian, almost got her fired from her job. And that's Joellen's deal. And so she's back for a vengeance, you know? Alicia is then again going into the quirkiness. So when the lunch is over, they all go back to their rooms, but Alicia pulls out a metal detector and she's scoping the grounds. She's scoping the grounds for lost treasure. And you're like, girl, don't you think if there was lost treasure in those grounds, someone would have found it by now? But honestly, I like the way she thinks. Because if you are at a party like that, like, you know, they probably do a lot of lawn parties. There's probably people who have a lot of really nice jewelry. And so she's just scoping the grounds with the yellow metal detector. And with her dolls, she's queen of the quirk. Liz then drops off masks to everyone because the dinner theme of the night is a masquerade dinner so they all can unmask and share something deeper about themselves. Ashley's mask is insane. Like, it's honestly borderline scary. Ashley's mask kind of looks like the mask from Phantom of the Megaplex. Speaking of Disney Channel, her mask looks like the Phantom of the Megaplex mask. So creepy. It's only eyes. The mouth doesn't move. You know, she's like, I can't even eat with this on. Everyone else is like cute half masks. And Ashley's mask is really big, which I'm like, is that symbolic? Was Liz throwing shade by giving Ashley that mask? In their roundtable discussion of things that everyone's been through, Joellen goes first, and she reveals that she was in a troubled teen camp. And I find that interesting. I wonder what she thinks about the Paris Hilton advocacy, because Paris Hilton was in one of those troubled teen camps. And when Paris Hilton was there, it was really bad for her. I don't know if you guys have watched her documentary, but she talks about how bad the troubled teen industry was to her, and it basically broke her spirit. And the reason why she is who she is because she had to disassociate because the troubled teen industry was bad to her. Crazy. And I guess Joellen was in one of those camps too. It's interesting to see an adult who went through that, because I think, at the Paris Hilton level, we see who Paris is. So it's hard to understand what other women who went in those programs would be like. And it's interesting because Joellen ended up going to college. Was in a sorority, but she was a wild child. And, I think we get a little bit of the fact that Joellen was a wild child, even in her adulthood. But it's just interesting. I'm going to watch that space. Rosie goes next. She says she's anxious and shy and weird. Okay. I'm not as big of a personality in real life. And it's like, girl, you're in real life talking to these people. What are you talking about? And no one is expecting Rosie to have this big bombastic personality. I just felt like she was making that up and just needed something to say. But honestly, what she said was better than Ashley, who started crying about not having a sob story at all. And it's like, girl, have some self-awareness. Liz shares that she lost her mom really young. And Alicia lies and says she was homeless. But then Liz is like, you were never homeless. You lived with your grandparents. That's not homeless. And Alicia's like, I used to have a Corvette bed and then I didn't. That was homeless. Don't tell me what I went through. Kelsey then goes next, and she says that her sugar daddy is still paying all her bills for health insurance and car insurance and even her rent, even though they broke up. And Rosie throws some shade, which honestly, this is why I don't want them to ever make up. But if Kelsey doesn't continue having a sugar daddy, they won't have the same level of beef. But I find it interesting also, speaking of Kelsey and the sugar daddy, but then she has the boyfriend, right? So she meets this guy while she has the sugar daddy. And then for all intents and purposes, she tells him, I have a boyfriend that's, X amount of years older than me who's paying for my life. And this guy just thought that was cool. I'm so confused by that. And I think we are not getting as much information about that as we should. She was on Watch What Happens Live, and I feel like we should have asked more about that. I'm more interested in this man who didn't care that she had a sugar daddy and still, now that she broke up with the sugar daddy, still wants to. It's all very peculiar. Rosie says if her sugar daddy's still paying those bills, he's still her sugar daddy. Now she just can't lie and say he's her boyfriend. Dinner ends, and Kelsey gives a backhanded compliment, which after you watch the confessional where Rosie's throwing shade, you're kind of on Kelsey's side, who says, Rosie, it was nice to see you be genuine for once. And then Joellen jumps in and is like, oh, she meant that as a compliment. And then Rosie's like, that sounds not nice, and a backhanded compliment. And Ashley tries to be on Rosie's side, and everyone's not really having it. And so the two end up leaving. Everyone leaves the table. Dinner's over. And even when dinner's over, Rosie and Ashley, they're still talking about it. They're talking shit. They're like, can you believe they said this? And no one cares. And Kelsey can hear that Rosie's talking shit, so she comes back in the room and she's like, excuse me, say it to my face. And, I'm not going to lie, she ate here. Because there's a post-dinner scene, and in this post-dinner scene, it is a little bit more drama, because Kelsey's coming for Rosie. She said, you're a liar. And in the confessional, although I wish that Rosie would have said this to her face, but in the confessional, she says, everything that Kelsey is trying to talk about, she doesn't. I have a house. I have a husband. I have a career. She just had a career for maybe a year. And you're like, oof, burn. But I do think that in her saying that, they're both so clearly envious of one another. And it's like the grass isn't always greener, girly pops. You got to just keep it going. Now, that being said, there wasn't a lot of Like Us points given out in Rhode Island this week. This is probably one of our quieter weeks that we've had so far. But even so, Joellen got one Like Us moment, 5 points, and Ashley got one Like Us moment, 5 points, which brings our total for Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Rosie's in first place, tied with Joellen. They both have 20 points apiece. Alicia's in second, all by herself with 15 points. Liz, Kelsey, Ashley all have 10 points, and Rula and Dolores have 0 points. And it's like Rula's barely on camera, so how would she get points? And Dolores is barely on camera, so how would she get points? Maybe one day they'll get on the board, but 6 episodes in, and they still have 0. That's longer than Beverly Hills, by the way, I will say. Even by the 6th episode, I'm pretty sure everyone had points on the board. I'll go back and look at my notes, but I'm pretty sure. Who are you rooting for Real Housewives of Rhode Island? Write in the comments. Let me know. If you're listening, thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe. And let's get into Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now, this was one of my favorite episodes of Real Housewives of Atlanta so far because we did get a read off. We had a word spar. And I think Atlanta's at its best when there's a little word sparring. And so we'll get into a little bit of that. But the top of the episode, Cynthia got on the board for the first time, and she got her first like us point, and it's because they're at a lunch with Adrienne Maloof. And if you guys didn't watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in the beginning, Adrienne Maloof was married to Dr. Paul Nassif. Adrienne Maloof is a Nepo baby. She comes from a family that used to own the Sacramento Kings, which is an NBA basketball team. And Adrienne is kind of that girl. She has a lot of family money, and she was married to a really nice like a really high quality TV plastic surgeon. And she had a lot of drama on Beverly Hills, but she was great television. And this is what I mean. I think I said it last week that Cynthia Bailey is like, I don't even like, she's Miss Real Housewives. Like, if it was a pageant, Cynthia's winning. She's friends with everybody. She has the podcast with Crystal Minkoff. She's in with Adrienne Maloof. Like, Cynthia Bailey she's in with the LA girls. She's friends with Kyle Richards. Like, I kind of like it. And Cynthia says that she's building a tequila with Adrienne Maloof, which when I hear Adrienne Maloof, I always think about the Maloof hoof. Just Adrienne is going to make a shoe line. And they're like, is it going to be the Maloof hoof? Bella Hadid's mom said that, Yolanda. Oh my God, Bella Hadid. Anyway, so Cynthia says that she's happy to be building tequila because it is her drink of choice. And that is what gets her first like us point, because tequila is also my liquor of choice. The girls are going to Dallas, and part of the Dallas trip is that there's going to be a gala with the tequila. That's why everyone's there. And Pinky and K. Michelle, when they arrive to the airport, they say that they've never been on a girls' trip before. And to me, that's completely so unrelatable, because it's like, tell me you didn't grow up playing sports without telling me. I think we've gotten into this before. Like, I was a college and professional athlete. And when you play on sports teams, you were constantly traveling and doing girls' trips. I consider every single time I went on a softball trip, that is a girls' trip. You're with your teammates, you're staying together. It is that. And so the fact that they've never done that, I feel bad for them. It's fun when you're growing up to like be in these scenarios. But, it's not for everyone. They get on the plane and Pinky leads a prayer. And it's a very long prayer. And Drew makes fun of her in the confessionals, which, like, I didn't really love. And I didn't like the way that they edited the prayer. And I'm not holy moly, but it's like, just let the girls pray. Damn, you don't have to make it an edit out of it and make it seem like it's long. Although the prayer did sound long. And sometimes when people are in a long prayer, you're just thinking to yourself, is the prayer almost over? What else is there to pray for right now? But Pinky, she needed to touch that plane by God. Then we get into the finances. And so Pinky starts talking about her bankruptcy, and Angela talks about her bankruptcy, and everyone's kind of talking about the money that they owe. And Shamia's like, this conversation is scaring me and I cannot relate. And I can relate to Shamiah not relating. So I'm going to get her a like us point for that too, because I can't relate to y'all filing for bankruptcy, and I hope I never can. Shamiah was saying that though, because she's scared, because she's getting into the business that her husband's telling her not to get into, because she had no business getting into that rum business. Shamiah, say no. Say no, Shamiah. The rum, that's the shape of her rum with Georgia peaches, and they don't even have peaches in Grenada. She's doing too much. K. Michelle mentions on this plane ride that she doesn't have a prenup, and that she also likes that her husband doesn't have social media. And I agree with that. I think that no social media is good. I think they've done studies on this. I actually remember a study that they did, which is basically saying that in a relationship, there should really only be one person that's active online. And when both people are active online, it actually is detrimental to the relationship. You just need one person that's active or no one active. But to have two people that are really active online, it's not good for the long term of a relationship. And that was a study that they did back in like 2012. So I can just imagine how that's changed over time. They then get into the Sprinter limo because Cynthia Bailey thought of everything. They walk the red carpet, they get on the Sprinter limo, and they stop along the way to have like a potty break. Shamiah says that she pees in cups when she gets to truck stops because her family owned a trucking business, and she knows that rest stops are really dirty. So she doesn't want to touch anything. She doesn't want to sit on a toilet. She doesn't want to hover. She doesn't want to do that. So she just pees in a cup and then pours it in the toilet. And I don't even know what you call that. I don't even know what you call that. I want to not think about it because I hear her. And I see how that's a good idea, but I also see that it's like a thing that maybe you don't tell anybody. Maybe you keep that as a secret to yourself. They get to the house, and there is some foreshadowing about La Casa de Fe, because the editors show that in this house, it's going to be 25 acres. There's a main house, 2 guest houses, a barn, a driving range, every amenity. It's argument ready, and it's easy to get lost. And what I love about when they arrive to the house is they start doing the little tours. and they see a tiny house, which is really cute. And then they go to the pool house. And Cynthia says, "Are we in Italy or what?" And like the house is not that nice, like the pool house. But I think she was saying that because maybe she knew that the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills had already gone to Italy. And so that was why she was saying that. Like maybe this was like a point that she was bringing up, that they're not on a big trip, or they're not on a big trip yet, at least. They then get put out into the rooms, and Cynthia says that Kelly and Shamiah have to share the pool house, which is the room that no one wants. But she's like, "You guys are so close. You guys should stay together." Pinky gets the tiny house, and then Cynthia puts all the rest of the ladies in the main house and lets them all pick their rooms. Angela comes to meet with Kelly and Shamiah, and Kelly and Shamiah are having a really hard time because apparently their room is dirty. But it wasn't dirty when they all did the walkthrough, but then it was clearly dirty when they went back and put their stuff down, and it was like too bad for them to take a shower, and the toilet was dirty and blah, 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 blah. So they're like, "Our room is dirty. Wah. We don't want to get ready." So they like don't get ready for dinner. And then Angela comes to meet with Kelly and Shamiah. And Kelly, who I'm realizing is only brave not to Portia or Phaedra's faces ever. All she does is like talk crap in the confessionals or behind their back. And she goes, "Frickin' frack is whack." Which like, I just think she's mad that they don't like her. I think I don't know, it's giving fan. Like, Kelly's giving like she is a fan, and she thought that getting on the show would make the old school girls like her, and they low-key just ignore her. And then she like tries to get their attention, and they're like, "We're not even gonna have a moment with you because that's how little we think of you." And I actually kind of like that. I don't like that she thinks that Portia and Phaedra are whack, though, because it's like, Kelly, who are you? Who is Adrienne Maloof in this world? Dinner time. Shamiah and Kelly decide that they're not coming to dinner. And then K. Michelle also says she isn't coming to dinner. And this confused me. But I guess maybe it's because K. Michelle might not be feeling that well because she's just come back from getting her surgeries and she's kind of rushing herself into traveling. And then maybe because they've been sitting all day, so maybe like her booty hurts. I don't know what K. Michelle's deal is. But she says that also she doesn't have her glam squad. And so because her glam squad isn't there, she doesn't want to go to dinner. But then she's on camera still? Question mark. So it's like, if you're going to be on camera, why not just go to dinner? Like, no one's at the dinner. The dinner's at the house. But then I was thinking, does she not want to go to the dinner because of the people who were working at the dinner? And she's like, "I can't let fans see me without my makeup." Like, she thinks she's Dolly Parton. I'm not sure. I don't get I didn't get that. That was weird to me. Then, while they're at the dinner table, it's Drew, Angela, Phaedra, Portia, Pinky. And Pinky's like, "I don't really know these girls that well, so let me tell them about myself a little bit more." And she starts sharing all of her business at the table. And then she starts sharing all of the business of the girls. So she's like, "Oh, this is what Shamia's going through. This is what Kelly's going through. Everyone's in pain." And she's like, "Oh, when my girls are hurting, I'm hurting." But Pinky's like really belaboring the point. Like, she's kind of doing too much. It's like, yeah, Pinky, we get it. They're not happy with where they are. Who cares? Then the conversation starts going towards like, well, then Portia chimes in, and Portia tries to like clear the air so that Cynthia doesn't feel bad. She's being a good friend in this instance, and she says, "Well, I just think that Cynthia deserves the kudos because she's getting the room clean. She set everything up for us. I think we need to give Cynthia some more credit." And I love that. I feel like that was very sweet. Drew then says, "Okay, like taking the note from Portia, we're moving on from talking about the bad room." And then Drew goes, "Okay, well, Portia, have you spoken to Kelly?" She's like, "Yeah, well." Pinky asks Portia, "Well, so Kelly said that you said that she slept with a married man." And Portia said, "Yeah, because she said that about me. But when she said it about me, it wasn't true. When I said it about her, it was." And then Portia does the best thing ever and tries to also get out of that conversation. But not before Angela does something that gets her a like us point for the episode, where she says, "I don't understand why they keep calling each other out for sleeping with married men. And I also don't understand the appeal in sleeping with somebody's husband." And it's like, yeah, that is the point. Like, stop sleeping, close your legs to married men. You know, what is the point? Portia then pivots and she says, "Well, Phaedra and Pinky, have you two squared up yet?" And it was an incredible deflection. She said, "Is everyone's hearts and minds clear?" So everyone's hearts and minds clear. Phaedra and Pinky, have you two squared up yet? And then Pinky repeats the same issue that she's had with Phaedra this whole time, which is that Phaedra said, "I eat meat and I don't eat meat." And so we go back to Meatgate, where Phaedra said that Pinky served meat, not that she ate it. Shamiah then has that conversation with Kelly, where Kelly is the one who says that she saw Pinky eating a steak, and those are her friends. So that will all be revealed. And then Shamiah in her confessional says that she was maybe tricked by Phaedra. But it's like, is Phaedra doing the tricking, or is Phaedra just sharing information, knows people are messy, and gives them enough gossip to hang themselves with? You know what I mean? And I think that's actually what's happening here. Phaedra's like, I'm not telling these girls anything. All I have to do is say a little bit, and they get 1 inch and go a mile. They go a mile. Cynthia goes to check out the cast outs, and they're fine. They're just being lame at the pool. I hate when people do this. It's like, ugh, they're so desperate for attention. Like when people are like, I'm not going to hang out, I just go, okay, see ya. And I don't go check on them. So Cynthia's a nicer person than me, but that's why she's Miss Housewives, you know? Angela then tells Pinky, she's like, I feel like you seem so bothered by the situation with Shamiah and Kelly, even though it doesn't have to do with you. And Pinky then takes it really personally, and she starts attacking Angela. Pinky starts by saying she could never be bothered by Angela, nothing from head to toe. Angela says, Pinky sounds insecure, and the way she took it sounds insecure. Pinky says, bitch, my heels are high as hell, and I'm as tall as you. And then Angela says, yeah, that's right, I am a bitch. I'm best in taking control of herself. That's what bitch stands for. And then Pinky says that she's a bad bitch. And Angela says, yeah, a bad bitch who doesn't pay her bills. And then I can throw a rock and hit 10 people you owe. Pinky then says Angela will never touch the money she's had in her whole lifetime. She has multi-million-dollar businesses. And Angela says, yeah, multi-million-dollar bills. Pinky says, my husband is paid. Angela says, you owe employees money. Pinky says, Angela, you're sweaty. Angela says she has never canceled Christmas and then asks, how are you doing giveaways when you owe people? Pinky says she owes no one but maybe Angela a new lace front. And then Angela calls Pinky Mr. Clean and Papa Smurf. Pinky says that she also owes Angela new veneers with her overbite. And Angela says, not with, and this is my favorite part, how your teeth commingle. Those incestuous teeth you've got. I'll be thinking about incestuous teeth for the rest of my life. It's so funny. Pinky says to kiss her ass. She stands up. She shows her butt. The butt's, you know, I'm not a dunkologist like Phaedra, but Phaedra says it's not a perfect booty. She then gets up to try to leave, but then she, as Drew says, Uno reverses and sits back down. She doesn't even leave. It's a really bad walk-off. And then she says, when she sits back down, at least my husband likes me. Your husband doesn't like you. Angela says that Pinky has a live-in wife in the basement. I don't even know what that means. And then after all of that, the ladies come to terms. I couldn't believe it. They said, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight with you either. The reason why they said that is because Angela won the fight. Angela won. Andrea ends the episode and she says it the best way. She says, oof, these ladies, they're going word for word. But the thing is that they're so similar because they're both in a lot of debt. Portia says, damn, y'all went so low, you went to hell. And Angela says, if you're going to hell, make it a ticket for 2. And I actually agree with that. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, when they go low, you go high. And I do think there's a time and a place for that. But sometimes there's a time and a place where it's like, if you're going to go low, I'm coming along. We're going to go on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. If you've never been to Disneyland and you don't know about Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, it's a ride at Disneyland that they always threaten to close, but the people fight for it. And in the ride, you are this character called Mr. Toad, but you get in a car accident for some reason, one reason or another. And then in the car accident, you get sent to the jail. And then in the jail, you get sent to hell. You go to hell and it gets hot on the ride. And that's where Angela is. Angela's on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And I agree with that. I'd like to say I like to be the better person, but if we're going to verbally spar, let's go. Bring it. And that's the end of the episode. So Cynthia got 1 Like Us point that episode for tequila being her drink of choice, and Angela got 2 Like Us points that episode. 1 for saying that sleeping with somebody's husband is not great. Couldn't agree more. Why are you doing that? There's nothing appealing about that. And for number 2, for saying that when people go down, sometimes you got to go down with them. I know that's right. So if you are enjoying these recaps, please let me know in the comments. I appreciate it so much. And make sure to follow along on socials at Like Us Pod, at Aaron Jones-Wesley. Overall in the standings of Real Housewives of Atlanta, we have K. Michelle with 20 points, tied at first place with Angela, who also has 20 points. Portia has 10 points, and Shamiah has 10 points. They're tied in second place. Phaedra has 5 points. Pinky has 5 points. Cynthia has 5 points. Tied for third place. Cynthia got on the board for the first time. And Drew and Kelly both have 0 points. Drew hasn't been in that many episodes, I guess. And Kelly, you know, Kelly's time will come. Kelly's time will come. I forgot to mention, Shamiah also got a point this episode for not being able to relate to bankruptcy because same girl, and may that never find me. Thank you all so much for listening. Tune in next week. We'll chat then. Bye.